At the beginning of this story, we are shown a world that is completely different from today's world. The land has become barren, and people are willing to kill each other for water. The biggest crisis in this world is the lack of water here. We are introduced to a man named Ernst, who lives in a townhouse with his son. He still owns a large piece of land where many years ago he and his father used to farm. Back then, the land was lush and green. But his children have never seen the land green, and still believes that one day the land will become fertile again. However, people no longer think that way, so everyone has abandoned this place. Ernst owns a mule that he uses to transport supplies to people who dig deep into the earth to extract water. These people work for the government. Ernst visits them with his son and asks for water for irrigation, but they flatly refuse. They say that such a large amount of water isn't possible, and even if it were, it would cost him a fortune money. Ernst doesn't have. Disappointed, Ernst and his son return home, but on the way, their mule breaks its leg. Unable to walk anymore, Ernst is forced to put the mule down. They return home, where we see Ernst's daughter cleaning a plate using mud, because there's no water left to wash dishes properly. Now that their mule is dead, they need a new one. The next day, Ernst takes his son to a place where robotic animals are being auctioned. Many people bid, including a man named Flame. Somehow, Ernst manages to buy one, which annoys Flame, as he also wanted the robotic animal. Later, Ernst takes his son to a hospital where his wife, his son's mother, lives. She cannot walk without a special mobility frame due to an accident. The frame is extremely expensive, and Ernst cannot afford it, so his wife is forced to stay in the hospital. After visiting her, Ernst and his son begin their journey home. On the way, they encounter a poor boy named Robbie, who has a child he wants to sell because he can't feed him. He fears the child will die, Ernst stops him from doing so, encourages him not to give up, and even gives him some drinking water. Ernst already knew Robbie and his daughter too. Robbie then tells Ernst that his daughter is having an affair, which Ernst knows nothing about. This angers him. He goes to his daughter and confronts her, but she tells him that she is the master of her own life and can do what she wants. This enrages Ernst, and he locks her inside the house. One morning, Ernst finds out that someone has stolen his robotic animal. He is heartbroken and suspects Flame. Just then, the water supply authorities, the most powerful people in the area, reach. They punch him and knock him out. When Ernst regains consciousness, he is in the custody of the water supply authorities. They accuse him of stealing water using his robotic animal. They claim they saw him extracting water illegally. They prepare to kill Ernst, but he manages to grab a gun and points it at them, allowing him to escape. He now wants to find Flame, whom he suspects of stealing the robot and using it to siphon off water, eventually. Ernst finds Flame. It turns out that Flame was the one who stole the robotic animal and used it to steal a large amount of water from the supply system. He planned to sell the water across the border for a huge profit. Ernst holds Flame at gunpoint and tells him that he must go back with him to the water authorities so that Ernst can prove his innocence. Let me know if you'd like a summarized version or SEO description for YouTube. Here is the English translation of the next part of your story. Viewers watch the videos, but they don't subscribe to the channel or like the videos. So I request all of you to please make sure to subscribe to my channel and like the video. Now, coming back to the story, Ernst begins taking Flame back to the water suppliers to prove his innocence. But slowly, his body becomes extremely dehydrated. Flame tells Ernst that they have a lot of water and that he can drink some. He says they will sell the water later and make a lot of money, which they can split between themselves. Ernst drinks some water to rehydrate himself, but still doesn't want to sell the water. His only aim is to take Flame back to the water suppliers. After drinking, his body becomes weak, and he begins to stumble. He's extremely exhausted. Flame realizes this and throws a rock from a distance. Killing Ness, he then stages the scene to make it look like the robotic animal killed Ernst. Flame leaves Ernst's body and the robot there, and heads straight to Ernst's house, where he meets his daughter. It turns out, Flame is the same boy Ernst's daughter was in love with. She goes with Flame. Meanwhile, Ernst's son realizes that his father hasn't returned home all day. He sets out to find him and first comes across the robotic animal and some water bottles belonging to the water suppliers. He now understands that his father has died. He goes to the water suppliers with the evidence. After seeing the robot in the scene, they understand that Ernst didn't steal the water. If he had, the rest of the stolen water would still have been there, which it wasn't. Flame had cleverly staged everything to make it look like the robot killed Ernst. At home, Ernst's son tries to destroy the robot out of grief. But just then, Flame arrives. He tries to console him and shows sympathy. Flame has now become part of the family and tells Ernst's son that he wants to marry his sister. The boy doesn't say anything, as he, too, has accepted Flame. Flame decides to cultivate the large land that Ernst once believed would turn green again. He goes to the water suppliers and asks them for water for irrigation, requesting it unofficially without informing the government. He promises them a big profit once the crops are harvested. They agree, and Flame gets water. Flame works very hard in the fields, and soon crops begin to grow. This makes both Flame and Ernst's son very happy. And now Ernst's son is also impressed with Flame and agrees to marry his sister to him. Everything starts going well in Flame's life, but one day, while he is working in the fields, some people from the bank show up. They tell him that Ernst had taken a huge loan against the land, which he never repaid. Soon, the bank will seize the property. Flame is heartbroken to hear this because he had worked so hard on that land. So he goes to a man named Robbie, the same guy who once tried to sell his child to Ernst. Flame knows that Robbie is desperate and wants to sell his child. Flame goes to Robbie and asks him to sell the child. Robbie, without informing his wife, sells the child to some people. But Flame still needs the money, so he kills Robbie. While shooting him, one of the bullets also hits the robotic animal, breaking one of its legs. Flame takes the money and flees. The robot, now limping, starts walking toward its manufacturer, the person who built it. The robot's software also seems to be malfunctioning, so it's trying to return for repairs. The next day, Flame is seen sitting happily at home with his wife. He is relieved that he has paid off the bank loan. Meanwhile, Ernst's son suspects that Flame had sold the robotic animal and used that money to pay off the loan. Would you like me to continue this story in English or summarize it further? Here is the English translation of the final part of your story. He had already paid off the bank loan. Meanwhile, we see the robotic animal just cross the border and finally reaches its manufacturer, the person who originally built it. When the manufacturer finds the robot, he makes an announcement over the radio, saying that whoever owns this robotic animal should come and collect it. When Ernst's son hears this, he's completely shocked because up until now, he believed that Flame had sold the robot and used the money to pay off the bank loan. But now, he knows the truth. That evening, he calmly asks Flame whether he sold the robotic animal. Hearing this, Flame gets very angry and starts yelling at him. This reaction increases Ernst's son's suspicion. He then tells Flame that he will visit his mother in the hospital the next day, but instead of going to the hospital, the next day Ernst's son goes to the manufacturer across the border, where the robotic animal is being kept. The man whose company builds these robots returns it to him and also tells him about a special feature of the robot. It records everything it sees. When Ernst's son checks the recorded footage, he is shocked to discover the truth. It was Flame who killed his father, not the robotic animal. He knows that Flame staged the entire scene to make it look like the robot was responsible. He returns home and confronts Flame, saying the robot has come back on its own even, though Flame claimed to have sold it. Flame responds with more lies, which only makes the son angrier. Still, he doesn't confront Flame further at that moment, but he does say one thing: Robbie was asking for you. Hearing this, Flame is stunned because he himself had killed Robbie, but he doesn't give it much thought. The next day, Flame receives a letter supposedly from Robbie, asking for help and requesting him to come to a remote desert location. Flame decides to go, taking the robotic animal with him. But when he gets there and moves a bit further, he falls into a ditch, breaking both of his legs. As he lies there in pain, a shadow looms over him. it's Ernst's son. It turns out that he forged the letter in Robbie's name too. Lure Flame there. When Flame looks into his eyes, he realizes that Ernst's son knows everything. Flame tries to convince him
Saying it was just an accident.
That he didn't kill Ernst on purpose.
But it's too late. Ernst's son knows the truth. He kills Flame, takes the robotic animal, and returns home at home. He doesn't tell his sister anything about Flame because she is pregnant with Flame's child. When Flame doesn't return for several days, Ernst's daughter asks her brother where he is. Her brother just tells her you should wait a bit longer. But even she is beginning to lose hope. Then she tells her brother, we should bring Mom back home. Now that they have money thanks to their successful crop, they can finally afford the assistive walking device her mother needs. They also express a wish that the next child in their home will be a baby girl. With this scene, the movie ends. And now, let me know in the comments which movie you'd like me to explain next. I read and appreciate all your lovely comments. Thank you so much for your support. Music plays. Let me know if you'd like me to help turn this entire story into a YouTube video script, voiceover, or SEO optimized description.